croissant?
No, monsieur.
You call this coffee?
I call this zombie takeout.
What's up? Welcome to episode 270 of Zombie Takeout, the B-movie and cult movie podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listener submitted, of course, from John Phillips on Facebook. In reference to last week's episode, he said, "Did I miss a mention of a very young Justin Long?"
I'm sure I got that.
I'm reasonably sure you did mention him, because I had it in my notes, and I think you beat me to it.
Well, because the thing was, I didn't recognize him at first either. I'm like, that guy your kid looks like Justin Long. He looked too young for him.
Mm-hmm. And I mostly know him from the Mac ads, so it wasn't really a big deal to me. And then, of course, John Hodgman is the big deal in the Mac ads. He also said, I think the best way to comment on the Bowie-Lemmy thing is that Bowie was an artist, and Lemmy, as he said, quote, "We are Motorhead and we play rock and roll." Of course, I had to question him on that when I said I don't want to get into the whole debate about whether or not what's art. And he said, "Nor do I, but Bowie was well loved and respected by elitist critics who looked down on hard rock and metal." And that is very true. And I mentioned that if Motorhead were to have a sudden resurgence, particularly in the wake of Lemmy's death, the critics would get very revisionist very quickly, much like they did with Zeppelin.
Well, Bowie had appeal to many different people.
Yeah, and as you said in the follow-up comment,
elitists and I mean, people looking for the avant-garde in itself. I mean, it's...
Lemmy was a pioneer in a niche.
Exactly.
Yeah, what I heard referred to in our college radio days as loud music, metal, punk, and industrial.
Your kids and your loud music.
That's what it was called. Those three genres. And in those genres, as I've said, Lemmy was huge. He was instrumental. But outside of that, very few people who knew who he was, whereas Bowie was, he jumped around enough stylistically to have a wider appeal.
He influenced James Brown.
Okay, this I'm going to question.
And Nirvana.
Not Nirvana, obviously, but James Brown?
Yes. I believe the song is called Good Loving. Or Gimme Good Loving, where it's the first sample, one of the first samples ever done. Only, of course, the way James Brown would sample was he played the song not Heroes, Fame for his band. I think probably the JBs at this time, and said, "Play that riff."
Oh wow! Okay.
So the song is him singing over the riff of pretty much the music of Fame.
Okay, I need to look that up.
So he doesn't cover it. I mean, he has completely different lyrics, but it's that guitar riff, it's the bass
kind of
and
like,
the drums of Fame.
It's kind of like Puff Daddy's "Come With Me" from this week's movie.
Oh God!
It's Kashmir with a rap vocal. Yeah.
It's kind of like that, yes, only not an abomination.
I don't know. I kind of liked that song at the time.
Jeez.
I haven't heard it in ages,
But yeah, and they play it to perfection too. So it's
course.
not just like they're sampling it; they play it. And of course, there's an interview of did James Brown ask you for permission? And he's just kind of like, huh? And well, what do you think about it? Are you you could sue him for that if you wanted. He just was kind of like, what are you gonna do?
It's James Brown,
right? So how many people could actually say that they went from James Brown to Nirvana?
You also mentioned that it would have been great if Lemmy could have played in Tin Machine, which just kind of broke my brain. Reeves and Lemmy playing together.
I know. Wouldn't that have been the fucking coolest?
All due respect to the Sells brothers, they're great players, but I not only would replace Tony Sells with Lemmy, bring Neil Peart in.
Oh yeah, of course. Then
and Bowie. That would be. I mean, obviously half of them are dead now, but still. And Neil's about to retire, so I can't even get him and Reeves, but that would be incredible.
You could bring Lemmy in when he had Paige Hamilton with him too, who I didn't realize
God.
this. Paige Hamilton toured with him too. Like he didn't just play. I thought he just did a few songs on the Hours, but he did the tour. So he did like Ziggy Stardust and all that stuff.
And both Paige Hamilton and Reeves Gabrels are alive and well, and neither has mentioned retiring, so that needs to happen.
Oh, Paige is never going to retire, man. That guy loves, fucking touring.
Those two need to play together because that combination would be insane.
And that is an absolute prince too. He'll stay there all night taking pictures with every single damn person in the crowd before they leave.
All right, so without any further ado, like the last month, on to this week's movie, which is from 1998, Godzilla. Yes, we're finally starting the Godzillogy. Of course, That brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Guys in Rubber Suits. Still a good idea.
And also brought to you by New York Face. Tired of developing characters? Just give them some use and an accent or something.
And of course, you have to also have them argue about which roads to take.
Despite not being any traffic.
Yeah, that was odd.
Yeah, very odd. All right, so, wow, how am I going to do this plot summary? We have a guy studying the worms of Chernobyl and how they've increased in size.
Would be a good band name.
But yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? But he gets pulled off of his assignment because there is a giant iguana spotted in the South Pacific, and then in Central America, and then it just disappears for a bit, and they're trying to figure out what the hell it is. So they figure out they spot it in the Atlantic, and then it makes its way to New York. I'm not sure why they had to do that.
Well, because it's an American production, and where are you going to attack but New York? He's already done Washington, D.C.
Well, I'm just talking about why don't you just begin it with it coming into New York?
Yeah. But then you'd cut out the only watchable part of the movie.
Was there a watchable part?
I thought the beginning was. Everything until New York. But
anyway, so we have the merry cast of New Yorkers, which, newsflash, not many people actually talk like that anymore. New York accent, there used to be a New York accent, there used to be a Chicago accent. It's really dying, man.
Listen to Robert Klein, that's his standard New York accent.
Very true, Robert Klein. So, right, we have his ex-girlfriend who is a journalist's assistant, and she's, of course, still trying to get into the big time, but hasn't quite been able to do it. She takes advantage of having this relationship from her past with the scientist, fucks him over royally, uses him, gets the information, almost gets him fired. Well, gets him fired, yeah. Then this other subplot with this French Secret Service for some reason, which really makes zero sense whatsoever. They had the professional there, and they needed a way to get him into the movie, so he's the French Secret Service, and they join up with Ferris Bueller after he gets fired, and they go to the Art Institute and catch a Cubs game, and he sings "Shake It Up" or "Twist and Shout" in the parade, and it's
at some point they blow up MSG.
Yeah, well, they have the sports car.
Yeah.
And then there's this lizard that's just running through the city.
Giant iguana. Actually, a giant iguana mixed with a T-Rex.
Yes.
Because he's got the stubby arms.
Iguana T-Rex runs through the city in the subway. The military is, of course, just so incompetent that they are constantly outwitted by it, doing more damage to the city than the actual iguana. And hilarity, well...
No, it tries to. More than it should try to in a Godzilla movie.
Well, I'll spoil this. He uses Madison Square Garden as his nest, which I guess you can't really spoil because, the last half hour of the movie takes place there just about.
It's actually the only part of it I remember from the last time I saw it, 5 years ago.
And the thing laid more or put up more eggs than the New York Knicks do at the Garden.
Yeah.
Ah.
And
As
as
a
we
Laker
attempted
fan, basketball has been very painful for me the last couple of years. So,
and as we attempted to say a minute ago, hilarity ensues.
Hilarity ensues, yes.
And mercifully, they got the origin story out of the way during the credits.
Well, yeah, it's an easy origin story.
Yeah, it's the old origin story. It's the one thing they kept. But they kept really just switching between shots of mushroom clouds and shots of iguanas. And actually, one of my titles I forgot to mention was, because I forgot to type it up, was Iguanas in the Mushroom Cloud. Yeah, our existing title is better. Although I never knew that Godzilla was an iguana before this, so that was a nice thing to find out.
Was he really an iguana, though?
No, the actual Godzilla was random lizard.
Yeah, it's true.
Standard giant reptile, oddly named ape whale, which I think we've talked about when we reviewed the other Godzilla movies.
Yeah, it was so long ago.
Gojira, the original name of Godzilla, which is used twice in this movie, which I thought was a very nice touch.
That was the best part of the film, actually. Yeah.
The old guy says it in the hospital, and then the news reporter Audrey says, "What's the
Principal Skinner says,
it's Gojira, you moron."
Right. Principal
I love
Skinner.
that one. No, it was her. It wasn't.
He's the one that says
he was
Godzilla.
Godzilla, right? Yeah, Harry Shearer. Okay, getting into the beginning though, what I thought was the good part. Everything before they got to New York, the Japanese, the sub that got hit, all of the stuff with Matthew Broderick in the beginning. Although the flirtation with Vicki Lewis was a little annoying. Fortunately, they dropped that very quickly.
Well, they had so many other subplots running around in this. Yeah. It was fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
She was wasted in this.
Yeah.
I mean, her character was pretty damn pointless.
Mm-hmm.
She had 4 scenes.
Yeah, she didn't need to be there at all, really. They could have just had him liaise with the general.
I think she would have been better
in the New York scene.
Have the ex-girlfriend subplot, which was just batshit crazy.
Uh-huh.
The whole ex-girlfriend subplot just was, I mean, it was one of the dumbest things I've seen on screen in a long time. And we've seen some pretty dumb movies over the last 3 months. Of course.
And all of those cutbacks to New York when they're going through that beginning establishing thing with Broderick were just irritating. They broke the tension, ruined the pacing. And of course, they were full of New York stereotypes.
And who keeps a picture of an ex-girlfriend for 8 years
on
their stuff, man?
That suggests a bit of an issue.
Yeah. Because, well, you just assumed when he saw those pictures that he had a relationship with this woman, back home, and he was away studying.
Yeah, right.
And then, so when it got to the point of, are you single? And he says yes. We were like, wait, I'm like, what?
So I didn't catch them at that point.
She has a news radio chick asks if he's single.
Oh, I know. I remember that scene. I didn't remember the pictures at that point, though.
Yeah, he had them on at Chernobyl.
Uh-huh. I didn't catch them there, is what I'm saying. Right.
So I assumed that was his girlfriend at home.
Uh-huh. Right.
And then when he's saying he's single, 2 minutes later, it's kind of, wait, what? Is that his mom then? What the fuck?
Also, another thing I learned from this, those wide sweeping shots with the dramatic music and the beeping, Chiron, the text that goes on the screen, that Bay does all the time, he totally ripped off from Emmerich.
Well, of course, yeah, the two are...
Well, Emmerich was a little bit ahead of Bay, so...
Well, of course, yeah.
I've always accused Bay of ripping Emmerich off, but those particular shots I never realized. Now, okay, the big problem with this movie is just, it's entirely too Hollywood. I mean, the tone feels like a comedy with this giant monster walking around.
Right. The two are just so detached from each other. Just, I think your big story just walked by the window. Mm. Really? That's how you would react to seeing a fucking monster? Yeah. It wouldn't be, holy fucking shit, look at that.
Yeah. Well, the reactions in general when it first shows up, some of them are legit, but, people basically fainting. But our leads just kind of run after it and joke about it.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I'm just going to stand here and see how close it can come to me.
Mm. Oh, when Godzilla steps and Hank Azaria's character, Animal, basically ends up between its toes. which would knock you down if that actually happened. The shockwave would take you completely off your feet, probably knock the wind out of you. I'm not going to nitpick the physics too much, but speaking of nitpicking the physics, or actually one of the scenes I did like in that respect, the dock gag with the old guy when he first reaches land in New York.
Oh, at the...
when he's out fishing and he pulls him in? Yeah. And Godzilla comes along and basically just wrecks the dock and the old man has to run after. I did get a kick out of that.
You know, the people who take lines and put them on IMDb as good lines, they put like one of those lines, like, the only thing you're going to catch is a cold. And I'm like, really? Have you not heard that before? Have you never gone... I mean, I have a limited experience in fishing, in history in fishing. I've heard that many times.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also on the annoying side, Mayor Ebert and his assistant Gene. Yeah.
Yeah, the mayoral subplot could have, gone too. That was just, it was ridiculous. Yeah. It was like, oh, politician, caring just for himself, man. Mm-hmm. He's a fat cat.
If they had gone full parody, this would have been enjoyable. But they tried to walk this line where it was kind of funny, or they were trying to kind of be funny and kind of trying to be dramatic.
When you take half the cast of The Simpsons,
yeah,
you really should just go all the way.
Yeah.
Did you know Nancy Cartwright has a cameo in this?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I was thinking half the cast. I caught Hank Azaria and Harry Shearer. That was about it.
Right. All they're missing is Kavner and Castellano. I guess you're Lee Smith.
Yeah. Now, this is the 23rd Godzilla film, and it's the first to be completely produced by a Hollywood studio, obviously. Emmerich admitted that he didn't like the original Godzilla movies, and he only agreed to do the project after being promised he would be able to do whatever he wanted.
Why would they do that, then?
Because it was 98, and Emmerich was huge. This was just off the heels of ID4.
It's about 4 years later.
Well, yeah, in movie terms, that's off the heels.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't think he'd done anything in between. Oh, and halfway through the screening, Kenpachiro Satsuma, who played Godzilla from 85 to 95, walked out saying, "It's not Godzilla, it doesn't have the spirit."
He's absolutely right. Mm-hmm. It just...
Yeah. Fans of the actual Godzilla have been referring to this Godzilla as Gino, I'm going to pronounce it. Godzilla in name only. And in later years, Toho, the original company that created Godzilla, officially retconned this version as Zilla for future appearances.
All right. Oh, ID4 was 96.
Okay, so 3 years.
Yeah.
2 years. So it was very much off the heels of it.
So, yeah, it definitely was.
Now, okay, we have Godzilla for most of the movie hiding in New York City.
Yeah. They can't find him.
A creature the size of a skyscraper, hiding on an island.
Yep.
That they could have easily just flown over.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but he was in the subway. And you know how small or large the subway could be, huh?
Uh-huh.
Every step he took, shook the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So he was standing still that whole time?
Yeah, trying to be very quiet.
Yes. He was on his tippy toes. Creeping around Manhattan. So they lure him out with the pile of fish. No one thought of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, poisoning the fish.
Yeah. No, they just wanted to have him stationary so they could snap some pictures.
Shoot him and blow up buildings in the background.
Yeah.
All right, here's the only question I have after seeing this movie. Do you think on 9/11 did Roland Emmerich masturbate?
Wow. Probably.
Do you think he did it more than once?
Probably 2 or 3 times.
There had to have been twisting of the nipples involved. There's no doubt in my mind. This man really shot some loads on 9/11 because his movies are just about destroying America.
Yeah. And he was hired and given free reign with the first American production of Godzilla.
Yeah.
And that's really the issue. It is really the epitome of an American Godzilla movie. They give very little time to the cause of the monster, whereas in the classics, a lot of time is spent on the whole radiation thing and, what led to it.
The story
Yeah.
is the cause of the monster.
And
the atomic bomb.
And the point of the story in most of them as well is to survive it. It follows the people trying to survive the monster. And this, it's let's kill the motherfucker.
We're going to kill him. Or we're gonna get a picture of him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's that in the other movies too. There's a military element, of course, but they're fairly ineffectual. The point is to follow the survivors of this force of nature, this natural disaster, effectively.
A twist would have been nice.
Yeah.
In fact, it would have explained the whole French Secret Service thing better if they were there to steal Godzilla or take his DNA or something to weaponize him. Instead, nope. No twists, no curves.
No.
Everybody is who they say they are. Right.
And every time the music swelled, I couldn't help but think, in a world.
It was just like that. It was just so cliche ridden.
And then we get to the hatching scene in Madison Square Garden, which initially reminded me a lot of Alien. We have all of the eggs, that they find.
Yes.
And then all the eggs hatch, and it suddenly becomes Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what this was competing against.
That was more of a sequel type thing. The nest of eggs and baby Godzilla's taking the city.
We'll get to that. Thankfully, there won't be one.
Well, right. But that was an action that you would save for a sequel, not for the origin movie.
Yeah.
You start out with one Godzilla, and then the sequel you have a bunch of baby Godzillas running, or Godzukis running around the city.
Right.
Nope, Emmerich went for the full load.
I'm reasonably sure that if you gave Uwe Boll this cast and this money, he would have made a better Godzilla movie.
I was thinking about him watching this, and how tough I had been on him in the past, and how much better he is than Emmerich.
Blood Rain 3, or Third Reich as I should call it, got 3 brains from us.
Because he knows what he's making.
Yes,
in
exactly.
most cases.
Yes.
the Osama bin Laden thing, Postal, he did not know what he was making.
Well, I think he knew. It's just a matter of, with all of his stuff, he knows exactly what kind of movie he's making. It's just a matter of whether or not you like that kind of movie.
Emmerich had no idea what the fuck he was doing here.
Yeah.
Not a clue.
Well, because all Emmerich really does is blow shit up, usually in America.
He doesn't even seem to know Americans.
No.
I'm surprised he got the pass that he has gotten in some of his earlier, other work. That he just has no clue. Like I said, New Yorkers don't even sound like that anymore.
Yeah, that was, as we've been hammering, so bloody stereotypical. And we're from Jersey. We shouldn't really be complaining about New Yorkers being stereotyped, but...
Well, I guess it's one thing if you're doing a comedy.
Yeah.
But it takes you out of the movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
You might as well be watching an episode of The Simpsons when you have so many members of The Simpsons running around.
And, random famous actors plugged in for no reason.
Yeah.
And Wasted. Michael Lerner has done some brilliant work. Wasted as a caricature of a mayor who was named after Roger Ebert.
His way of getting back at the critics.
Yeah, probably. That was, I think, the casting, the stunt casting. I don't know if I'd call Michael Lerner stunt casting, but the better known actor who bugged me the most in this, because it was just such a waste of what he can do. Matthew Broderick has done some good stuff, but he was pretty much playing to his strengths in this one.
I'm not sure if he worked in this or not. It's
I liked the character, but it could have been better cast.
It could have been. Well, you know what? It was too much of a vortex of subplots.
Well, yeah.
That he got lost in.
He was pretty much the geeky scientist, and he played the role well.
Yeah, I think the ex-girlfriend subplot is definitely the biggest
Yeah.
landmine.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a plot hole. It's a landmine that destroyed this movie.
Right.
I mean, it would probably be mediocre if not for that. Because think of how much time it added on to the movie.
Right.
And how it took away from the people we should have been focusing on, that team that they assembled at the beginning.
You mean that
should have been the protagonists?
Yeah, the whole subplot, the whole thing with her and Animal and all of that, just kill all of that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, then definitely. I think it could have been a 3 without all of that.
Yeah, that was definitely just, the movie just got lost. They assembled the team at the beginning, you know, and really it should just follow along with that team.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, they could take some French people up along the way, or...
Well, there are usually a couple of subplots in a Godzilla movie to show, you know, how people are surviving. But it's usually just 1 or 2.
But nobody was surviving. You had people hanging out in a house party.
Right.
Despite New York being evacuated, they were still in their apartment. It didn't make any sense.
No.
And then she just figures out that he's gone how many hours later? What did they think they were doing in that bedroom the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my husband. He's on film. Oh, Archie.
And I think the most merciful thing I can think of to say about the movie, the credits were 9 minutes long, the closing credits.
Yes.
So it was a nice long closing credit sequence. It was 9 minutes shorter than I was expecting.
Well, right, here's the thing. I'm a little late into watching it last night. I'm like, oh, you know, it can't be that long, though. And I see, oh, fuck, it's over. It's 2 hours and 18 minutes.
It's a Roland Emmerich movie.
All right. But then I see the cast coming together, and I'm like, wow, this could be really cool. I mean,
so you hadn't seen it before?
No.
Okay.
It's like, I hated Independence Day.
Of course, yeah, we talked about it.
So I was not going back to put my money down on another Emmerich movie.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm seeing this cast. I'm like, wow, this could be pretty good. He's got some good people assembled here. You know, I love the professional. You know, I've always liked Matthew Broderick. I've always been compared to Matthew Broderick, actually. And of course, who wouldn't love Simpsons, you know, people? You know, Cher especially.
And Maria Pitillo, who played the girlfriend, is kind of unknown.
Right. I mean, I think this is like one of her only movies. I probably was a producer's friend or something.
And yeah, Vicki Lewis, great on news radio.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking, wow, you know, we could really have something here. And then it just gets like, wait, what? And then it felt like about an hour and a half of Billy Madison's speech.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think it would have been nice if they kept Skinner as the Greek chorus. I think they tried, but it just didn't. Like, well, there's just people want to go back to their homes. It's like, there's a monster destroying shit. You may not have a home left.
I wonder if Sharknado 2 and 3 got that from this, where they had, you know, the news anchors as the chorus.
They did it a lot better there.
Well, they did it far better. Obviously, they nailed it. But I wonder if the idea was pulled from this.
Maybe.
All right. On to sequels and remakes?
Sure.
Well, no, it's good news. TriStar planned to produce a trilogy of Godzilla films upon acquiring the license for Godzilla in '92. Emmerich and Devlin only went so far as to hire Tab Murphy to write a treatment for the sequel. The sequel would have involved the only surviving offspring in battling a giant insect in Sydney this time. However, due to the overwhelming negative reaction to the first film and the lack of enthusiasm from fans, audiences, theater owners, and licensees, you never hear that talked about, the planned sequels were abandoned and TriStar let their rights to Godzilla expire and revert to Toho in 2003. Producer Dean Devlin stated that they left the film with an open ending in case the film's success allowed them to return for a sequel.
I just don't get it, though. If you don't like the story, why would you be all like, you know, I'll do it and maybe I'll even come back and do more?
They were paid well. At this point, their fees were probably very high after ID4.
After you have success like ID4, you really should do something that you want to do.
But it isn't all good news. An animated series was produced as a continuation of the storyline of the film and aired on Fox from 98 to 2000. In the series, Dr. Totopoulos, Matthew Broderick's character, accidentally discovers the egg that survived the aerial bombardment before it hatches, in a minor change from the ending of the 1998 film. The creature hatches after Totopoulos stumbles onto it, and it assumes him as its parent. Subsequently, Dr. Totopoulos and his associates form a research team investigating strange occurrences and defending mankind from dangerous mutations. Actor Ian Ziering, speaking of Sharknado, voiced the character of Dr. Totopoulos throughout the series. It sounds hilariously cheesy.
Yes.
It's basically Ghostbusters with a pet Godzilla. Or Godzuki, actually.
I mean, looking at the grosses on this, they made money off it.
Yeah. Well, it's a Roland Emmerich movie, post 84.
I mean, they made more money outside the U.S. than in the U.S.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense, because they destroyed the U.S.
Probably.
All right, on to brains.
On to brains.
Cast is good. There's some good practical effects. A few lines here and there I liked. And really, overall, if I'm looking at this without knowing anything about Godzilla, it's a 2. But given how it spits in the face of the Godzilla mythos, I'm going 1.
I'm going 1 as well. It just, I had my hopes up with the cast, but it just wasted just about all of them.
Yeah.
You know, like it held on to one Sergeant, O'Brien and the Colonel, and they were just kind of these background pieces when they should have been more in the forefront. These scientists are what the movie should have been about,
right? Instead
about some reporters and wannabe reporters.
And what have we learned?
That watching pre-9/11 movies where, the Trade Center is just like obscured by clouds or struck by lightning in most of the scenes is creepy as hell.
Yeah. And I learned that iguanas reproduce asexually. Never knew that. I know a lot about reptiles, but I never knew that.
Where's the fun in that?
One of the few good ones. All right, so until next time, when we'll be continuing the Godzillogy with Godzilla 2000. Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to, links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube, links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all the listeners we have, but more would be better.
We could use some Facebook likes,
Yes, Facebook, some +1s on G+, followers on Twitter, whatever, social media you enjoy. We're there.
Yes.
You can also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. I think it ends, the movies that we have, set up in a row end with Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. I think I finally managed to find that one.
Wow.
Bill Maher is in it, I'll just put it that way.
Oh, that's right. He played a clip from that like a week or two ago on his show. I can't remember which, but yeah.
It's coming up
regrets.
In May, yeah. You'll also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. And of course, the recommendations list. Okay, what I had said when I saw this, I don't know if we were talking about this on air, but you had mentioned that at one point I'd said I wasn't sure where I was going to land on it.
Yeah.
I watched it on Netflix maybe 5 years ago, because I think it was when we were doing Zombie Takeout.
Yeah.
And I went into it expecting a bad movie, and I didn't hate it. I kind of had fun with it, expecting a bad movie. In that time, we've reviewed 2 Godzilla movies, and I've seen Godzilla from 2014, and I've kind of learned what Godzilla is about, and that's, I think, what really took the wind out of it for me.
It's not about just getting that motherfucker or getting a picture of it.
Right. No. It's about surviving a natural disaster, and lessons about radiation and, what happens when you drop 2 bombs on a country.
Yeah.
It's mostly about the bombs.
Yeah.
You can also email us zombieticket@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-CTO1 or for the alphanumerically challenged.
You can go fuck yourself.
I thought it would be much more creative. I was already laughing. 414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you'll always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee. And until next time, always remember to forget wherever you go in life. There you are.
Go fuck yourself asexually?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's pile it on. Let's get out of here.
No, it was her. It wasn't.
He's the one that says
he was just saying
Godzilla.
Godzilla, right? Yeah, Harry Shearer. But lost my voice.